Welcome and thank you for being here for our fourth event in our community learning series on how men around the world are engaging in gender justice. And today we're joining with Nepal, and this presentation is about understanding masculinity and gender justice in Nepal. So thank you everyone for being here. So to start us off in a good way, I have the great privilege and honor to introduce our project's knowledge keeper, Pam Bibi. Pam is a member of the Kainai Nation and currently resides in Mokinstis, also known as Calgary, with her spouse Tito, who is a member of the Ato Odom and Chippewa Cree Nations. And they have two children together, Brody and Leanne. Pam currently works as a system planner with the Calgary Homeless Foundation. And in her free time, she enjoys storytelling as a producer with Tito as a volunteer director and writer, as they have created short films together and continue to pursue this passion. In the 90s, Pamela completed her first degree at McGill University and then graduated as a chiropractor from Life Chiropractor College West. She was a chiropractor until 2002. Then when her children were born, changed careers and has now been employed with the nonprofit sector. She enjoys being a part of the homeless serving system of care here in Treaty 7. Pamela also volunteers with community organizations for supporting women's issues, housing, the environment, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Pam is the knowledge keeper of this project, as I said, and she is leading the development of a decolonial approach for this international research project. I'll now invite Dr. Lisa Lorenzetti and Dr. Amir Jamal to introduce this project.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you so much, Pam, for this beautiful beginning of our seminar today. Good morning, assalamu alaikum, namaskar, and welcome everyone. And thank you so much all around the globe joining today, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate that. As we are so excited to begin our fourth online session of our Shark-funded project on stories of personal transformation, men working for violence prevention and gender equity. And this is so important, so close to our heart to all of us working in this project. It's not just a research project, as I always say. It's a mission, it's our goal. A goal for a little social change for our communities across the globe on these significantly important issues. Being a man raised in northwest Pakistan, you can imagine what I witnessed. I witnessed a lot around gender justice issues. And engagement in gender justice, this project is so close to my heart. I'm so passionate about it and so much looking forward to this project. Yes, we are excitingly looking forward to those stories from across the globe, stories of those beautiful men, I call them beautiful men, who despite all the resistance, standing firm for gender justice and girls' education. So we want to know about them, right? That and those stories that influence dialogue and social change from within the community, not coming from outside, but emerging from within, this consciousness raising that is emerging from within the communities. And we want to bring that out and share with others and offer some best practices for men's participation in gender justice and violence prevention. We are so grateful to all of you, all our partners in this study. And today, we welcome our amazing partners from the beautiful country of Nepal. When I say Nepal, the only word comes to my mind is a beautiful country with beautiful people. And I'm looking forward to their presentations on this important topic.
Thank you, Amir. My name is Lisa Lorenzetti. Hello, namaste, salam alaikum. Wonderful to see everyone. I'm also part of the team and so excited about this fourth learning session in our series, Stories of Personal Transformation, Men Engaged in Gender Justice. We began our first story from Pakistan And then we had another event where we traveled to the Caribbean. Then we came back to Canada, Turtle Island, and we learned from people who are doing this work in Canada. And now we travel today back to Nepal, where we learn from our friends and colleagues about both what is happening in Nepal regarding gender justice and intimate partner violence, all the forms of gender-based violence they'll talk about today, and also the work that's being done. And it's always this work that gives us so much hope for change. So we're so excited about that. In addition to working with this wonderful team that you can see here, all the names listed, we're going to be interviewing men across those four contexts to, as Amir said, ask them, what was it that compelled them or engaged them to do this important work? What have they learned? And how can we involve more men in this work and work together as a community to make the necessary changes that are really needed for our goal and our dream and vision of a world without violence. And I think that we keep that vision in our hearts and our minds as we do our work together. But for now, we focus on what our friends will teach us and the learnings we can take away from Nepal. I'm so excited to learn from our Nepali team, and I just welcome them, and I welcome all of you. Thank you for coming.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janelle Pong. I'm one of the assistant coordinators on the project alongside Sarah. And I have the privilege of introducing our first speaker and also team partner on the project, Bidur Dhungel. So Bidur, his higher education was actually in biology and the environmental sciences. He completed his master's and PhD from the University of Ryukyu in Okinawa, Japan. I probably butchered that pronunciation, please forgive me, under the MEX scholarship and postdoc from University of Turku, Finland, under the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. Currently, he is working as an executive director supporting PhD students in their research, and he's a co-editor of the interdisciplinary journal, the Journal of Advanced Academic Research, which is published every 6 months. And he is an expert at the Policy Research Institute, a life member at the Nepal PhD Association and Japan University Alumni Association in Nepal. He is currently the recipient of the Presidential Award by the Nepal government in zoological science and the Fuji Award by the Zoological Society of Japan. So we welcome our very decorated Bidur Dhungel.
Hello, namaste. I'd like to give you a heads up that some of the images in the presentation might be upsetting to some of the people. So I like to apologize for that in the beginning. I would like to start this session with National Anthem of Nepal. So I'd like to request our singer, Aabhash Gautam.
Thank you very much. Namaskar, everyone. My name is Aabhash Gautam. Now I'm going to sing the National Anthem of Nepal by standing up from my seat. Soyo thunga fulka हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली प्रकृतिका कोटि कोटि सम्पदाको आँचल वीरहरूका रगतले स्वतन्त्र र अटल ज्ञान भूमि शान्ति भूमि तराई पहाड हिमाल अखण्ड यो प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बहुजाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति छन् विशाल अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल. Thank you very much. Now I would like to hand over this mic to Namrata Gautam.
Namaskar, everyone. My name is Namrata Gautam. I'm working as an operation manager in Southwestern Center for Research and PhD Studies. Today, I will be sharing some overview of Nepal. I will be sharing a short glimpse of Nepal through a video, and also will be sharing at the end about the status of GBP in Nepal. So moving on, I would like to share a a picture here, we can see this is a whole world map, and a part of a small part which is borderline with red color, it's Nepal. We are officially called as the Federal Democratic Republic country, also a landlocked country. It is mainly situated in the Himalayas, but also includes the parts of the Indo-Gangetic plain bordering Tibet of China to the north and India in the south, east and west, while it is narrowly separated from Bangladesh by the Siliguri corridor and from Bhutan, the Indian state of Sikkim. So geographically, it is diverse, including fertile plains, subalpine forested hills, and also we have 8 world tallest mountains, including Mount Everest, which we all know at the altitude of 8,848 meters above the sea level, and also often called as the highest point on the earth. So as per the census, population is recorded as 30.3 million approximately, and citizens of Nepal are called Nepalese or Nepali. So these are certain pictures that I would like to share. These are some personal pictures that I took when I was traveling. But I would like to just focus on the 2 pictures. One is the statue of Buddha. It is at the 3,800 meter above the sea level, and the very religious place of Nepal, the Pashupatinath temple, which has its own value, religious aspects and rituals. So talking about the ethnic groups, it is a home of 125 ethnic groups speaking 123 different mother tongues, and following a number of indigenous and religions in addition to Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. So now I would like to talk about the government of Nepal. In very short, I already said we are Federal Democratic Republic country. The Constitution of Nepal 2015, it envisioned that there would be 3 tiers of government named as local, provincial, and federal government. We have House of Representatives and National Assembly, which passes any laws centrally. And also I would like to refer Nepal's political structure is very complex, and in present it has central and federal government based on Kathmandu, which is in province 3. And there are 7 provincial government that indicates 7 provinces, 753 local governments, which include 6 metropolitan cities, 11 sub-metropolitan cities, 276 municipalities, and 460 rural municipalities. Now I would like to share a short glimpse of Nepal. share the status of GVP in Nepal in these recent years. As we all know, GVP, we term as gender-based violence, has also been a very, very significant problem in this Nepalese society. The United Nations Population Fund says 48% of Nepalese women have had experienced some form of violence at some point in their lives. So now these forms can be many, such as I can address as domestic violence, sexual abuse, torture, rape, sexual harassment, incest, women trafficking, dowry, which is also one of the burning issue in Nepalese context, preferences of boys, mental torture, verbal abuse, gender discrimination, also witchcraft accusation, which is still found in many places of Nepal. And another word I would like to use is chopadi. It is maybe a new term for some of the people, which do exist in Nepalese society. It's actually a form of menstrual taboo, which prohibits women and girls from participating in normal formal activities, family activities, while menstruating, as they are considered as impure. So it is mostly practiced in the western part of Nepal, but it is the same in true for city dwellers as well. In 2017, World Bank also showed a record that 149 people were killed as a result of GVP, out of which 140 people were female and 75 of whom were killed because of domestic violence. It was found that that after the investigation that many family members were the main perpetrator to cause such violence. However, some cases were actually not reported due to the stigma attached to GVP. So you can see the report published in UNFPA in this picture, which shows that 61% of women who experience violence had never ever talked about this to anyone. So I believe this has been a very, very significant problem that has to be addressed from the ground level. I would like to share an insight of GVP during COVID. I'm sure we all have been through a very bad experience during this pandemic in our own ways. When it is about epidemics or pandemics, outbreak of these diseases affects women and men very differently. So when it comes to bringing inequalities of women and girls, they face discriminations in the marginalized group in Nepalese context, and also it can sometimes become a certain disaster in extremely poverty cases. So all I would say that GVP has increased during this pandemic in Nepal, where women and girls are actually facing a very high risk with all the forms of GVP. Family members has been the main perpetrator. In this graph, you can see the accused and their relation with the victims recorded during this lockdown period in 2021. This record is of March to May of 2021. This record has been published by Verek Nepal. So you can see the family members has been taken as a main perpetrator that causes violence in. So yeah, this is all from me. Now I would like to call Madam Kunti Thapa for presenting her own poem on women's poetry.
Kunti madam was unable to come on camera, so she's going to recite the poem, and I'm just going to put the phone on a speaker. Okay, Kunti madam, please go ahead.
My name is Kunti Thapa. My homeland is Nepal. I'm living in New York since so long. I'm going to present one poem about the women of Nepal. Gailai amale ठाट्टी दुध दिन्थिन् तर हालेर म भने रोएपछि मात्रै दुध दिन्थिन् पानी हालेर छोरा अंशमाली छोरी अर्का घर जाने जा भन्ने सुन्दा रुँदै रुँदै कति रोएरै बाँध्थे मेरा दिन रात द्रौपदी पाँच पाण्डवले हानेको कप्टी पासाको दाउमा परिन् चरित्र हत्याको नाउँमा सीता अग्नि परीक्षामा परिन् देवयुग सकिएर के भयो देवयुग सकिएर के भयो विज्ञान र डिजिटल आयो छोरा पेटमा भए राख्यो छोरी भए भ्रूणमै मारिदियो छोरी भए भ्रूणमै मारिदियो नारी अस्मिता लुटिएको छ यहाँ पुरुष प्रधान समाजको उपज हो राजनीतिक अधिकार 33 मा परिन्। नारी राजनीतिक अधिकार 33 मा परिन्। चुलो चौको खेत बारीको काम बाहेक सम्पत्ति अधिकार वञ्चितमा परिन्। लोग्नेको कुटपिट परेपछि बेसीतिर झर्छिन्। लोग्नेको कुटपिट परेपछि बेसीतिर झर्छिन्। सन्तानको पेट पाल्न देह बेच्ने गर्छिन्। पढाइ लेखाइ छैन। पढाइ लेखाइ छैन। नेपाली नारीको विदेश जाने चक्करमा ढलानसम्म खस्छिन्। हातका ठेला सम्याउन नारी चेतना आउनुपर्छ। समृद्ध नारी बनाउन स्रोत साधन खोज्नुपर्छ। समृद्ध नारी बनाउन स्रोत साधन खोज्नुपर्छ। विभेदपूर्ण कालो अक्षरको कानुन मेटाउनुपर्छ। विभेदपूर्ण कालो अक्षरको कानुन मेटाउनुपर्छ। महिला सुरक्षा कानुन आगो पानीले लेख्नुपर्छ। महिला सुरक्षा कानुन आगो पानीले लेख्नुपर्छ। नारी शक्ति हो। नारी ऊर्जा हो। नारी चेतना हो। नारी आमा हो। नारी सृष्टि हो। नारी जननी हो। ममताको खानी। तिम्रो स्वर्णिम युग ल्याउनु छ सहरमा मात्र होइन, तराई पहाड हिमाल जोडिएरै नारी चेतनाको बिगुल फुक्नु छ। हैसियत बनाएका नारीहरूको सल्युट गर्नु छ। तह तबकामा पुगेका नारीको अनुसूचित गर्दै अनुसरण गर्नु छ। राष्ट्रपति सभामुख न्यायाधीश डाक्टर इन्जिनियर शिक्षक यसरी नै आफ्नो हैसियत बनाउन आफै हिँड्नुपर्छ। नारीको सुख समृद्धि बढाउन नारी आफै हिँड्नुपर्छ। स्रोतको मुहान खोज्नुपर्छ। समृद्ध नेपाल सुखी नेपाली हुन महिला शक्ति एकजुट हुनुपर्छ। महिला शक्ति एकजुट हुनुपर्छ। हस्त नमस्कार।
Thank you, Kunti Madam. Thank you so much. I think now we are going to invite Dr. Bidur.
Thank you very much, Rita ma'am. So I am going to talk a bit about policy program and institutional framework on gender in Nepal. Currently, we are having this Constitution of Nepal 2072, and in it clearly the fundamental rights of women has been declared in the Article 38. So it's also mentioned about the protection of against GBV, any physical, mental, sexual, or psychological or any kind of violence against women or any kind of oppression based on religious, social and cultural tradition and other practice are introduced in this article. And also Constitution has guaranteed the right to access, participation, the principle of proportional inclusion, and in all state structure and bodies, and 33% has been declared for women. So there are some of the laws on SGBV in Nepal, like the Domestic Violence Offense and Punishment Act 2009, Human Trafficking and Transportation Control Act 2007, Harassment and at the Workplace Elimination Act 2015, Witchcraft Allegation Offense and Punishment Act 2016, Social Practice Reform Act 1976, GBV Relief Fund Regulation, and different chapters of the Country Code 1963 that set out law on rape, trafficking in person, and marriage. These are some of the laws against SCBV in Nepal. So if you see the historical context of social exclusion, so if you see the political system in Nepal, economic and social fabric of Nepal, this has been in the very entrenched in society. So we have a very beginning Muluki in like Civil Code of 1854, which legally formalized the higher rigid and hierarchical caste system of before. So still it was this was a civil code, but for the very few elite people. So this was also after abolition of caste-based discrimination in 1963, the social hierarchy and division still remains. So Nepal is still a patriarchal system, and woman has a subordinate status position in society, which was reflected in the state-based discrimination. So Nepal government regularly makes periodic plan and policies every 5-year plan. So if we look on the gender chapter, we can really see very first plan, like first year 5 plan in 1956 to 1916 was welfare approach. So then it was women in development and policy. So then there was equal or participatory approach along with the efficiency approach. Then another 5-year plan was equity approach. Then we came the women in development to gender and development. Then there was another plan with the gender mainstreaming. So then there was an interim plan where there was gender responsive budget and 33% reservation in every state structure. And finally, this now we're in 15th periodic plan, which emphasized the gender equivalence in local level. So there are a few programs from the government side also, like mainstreaming gender equity program funded by United Nations Development Program. So we also have gender equality and social inclusion units. National Planning Commission formulated a gender management system. Ministry of Local Development developed a gender budget audit guideline in 2008. Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative, Ministry of General Administration, and Ministry of Education and Sports have prepared gender strategies. And also there is National Women Commission was established by statute in 2007. So we also have some of the international gender equality and social inclusion commitments Nepal has made. So therefore, some of them are the Convention on the Elimination of All Form of Discrimination Against Women, which was ratified by Nepal in 1991. Then there was this 1995 Beijing Platform for Action. In 1994, International Conference on Population and Development, ICPD and ICPD plus 10. Then there was this 2000 Millennium Development Goal. And finally, this United Nations Security Council Resolution, UNSCR 1325. There are also other international commitment signed by Nepal, but I haven't mentioned it here. Okay, thank you very much. This was a very brief introduction on policy, program, and institutional framework on gender in Nepal. So now I would like to invite our next speaker, Aashiyana Adhikari.
Thank you so much, Bidur sir. Namaste, everybody. I am Aashiyana Adhikari, and today I'll be talking about spread of digital violence against women during COVID in Nepal. So Namrata has already talked a lot about how GDP has increased in Nepal and even around the world. So gender-based violence has been called the shadow pandemic, and more than physical abuse, there has been a lot of sexual harassment and verbal abuse that has been reported all around the world. And before the pandemic, 243 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 experienced sexual or physical violence by an intimate partner in the past year. But it has seen to be increased more during the pandemic and after the pandemic due to various reasons like security, health and money issues, cramped living conditions, isolation with abusers, movement restriction, deserted public spaces. But something that has not been as much as talked about is the digital violence that has been increased around the world in South Asia and especially in Nepal. So there has been a lot of cases that has come up saying that how cyber harassment has grown because people are being able to access the internet more because of pandemic, because everything has gone online right now. So what are the common form of digital violence that is happening in today's day-to-day world due to the pandemic? Cyberbullying, hate speech, public shaming, intimidation, threats, which might vary from rape threats to death threats, cyberstalking, doxing, trolling. So let's see about the increased digital abuse in South Asia. What is the case and what is the scenario? So there is a gender digital divide that exists, but like I said, it has been narrowed due to the pandemic as everything has gone digital at the moment. And the prevalence of digital violence appear to have grown as a result of increasing internet use, which has again led to increased risks of violence. During peak periods of movement restriction, the number of relevant searches on domestic violence increased in South Asia. And online platforms saw an increase in misogyny, such as trolling and the use of photos without consent and sexual harassment. So what is the case of Nepal and digital violence against women? There is an increased connectivity in Nepal. They say that Nepal has moved 10 years forward because of the pandemic right now, because so many internet in places where there were no internet access have now internet access because children have to study, people have to work online. So they are doing their best to increase the connectivity. But having said that, it is a curse also to a lot of women because there is a lack of awareness among women and girls of their rights and the mechanism available for seeking justice and seeking remedies, because they just go in online to connect with people, to study and all the work that they want to do, but they get victimized. And the normalization of violence and social stigma associated with reporting violence. Like I said, women go online, they face harassment, but because there is a taboo connected with complaining about harassment, so they don't complain, especially when it comes to digital abuse. People would say that why did you go online? Why did you talk to this person? So it's like a stigma associated with it. And the lack of targeted financial and legal aid and the limited capacity to ensure full and effective investigation of cases, as well as small number of cases that result in perpetrator convictions, leads to not a lot of women reporting about such abuse and us not knowing that there is a lot of abuse going on in the country. So these are the cyber laws in Nepal, and it really does not do as much as justice as it should be. I mean, they are changing a lot of laws right now, but it still does not do justice to women. So there was a research that has been done. And then what I concluded is that from the total survey conducted on urban women between the age of 18 and 24 years old in Nepal, 48.8% of them responded that they have faced digital violence in one form or another, from which 65 affirmed this ratio to have increased after the start of COVID-19 pandemic in compared to that of before. So these were the apps that they used where they face violence: Facebook, Instagram, Tinder, Bumble. Like I mentioned, like 48.8% said that they face harassment in these apps. And among them, 65% said that the COVID pandemic has increased the violence. So what are the kind of digital violence faced by women, especially young women in Nepal right now? Threats, death threats, rape threats, blackmailing, sexual harassment, stalking, sex trolling, receiving unsolicited pictures on their Facebook DMs or their Instagram direct messages, obscene texts from random people that they don't know. Nepal right now has a very fast-paced growth in access to technology, like I said, thankfully to COVID-19, which is not a good thing, but because of COVID-19, it has a very fast-paced growth in access and technology. Due to that, there is an inability to cope and adapt to the fast-paced technology that is going on. And because it is still a male-dominated society, there is a victim-blaming culture in Nepal. That is, if I face violence from my boyfriend that I met through online, they would rather say that, why did I talk to a person that I don't know online? Rather than helping me out, saying that maybe the person did wrong to me. No. What if a person would attach your picture to another person's body and then it goes online? It is not on the person who did it. It would be to you that why you posted picture of yourself, even if the picture was fully clothed picture. So that is something that is very much prevalent in Nepal, and especially younger girls are more prone to digital violence attack because they are more vulnerable. They are more gullible to people who would just come in and say that this is this, I'll do you this, I love you, this and that. A lot of things play a part in this, and social structure led by patriarchal mindset play a very huge part in the victim blaming culture in Nepal and how girls are affected by it. And what are the key identified reasons that there's an increase in digital abuse? Availability of more time, feeling of superiority. Here I would like to explain for the fact that just the feeling that we can get away with it because we are doing the violence online. So it is easier for us to get away with it rather than doing physical violence. Another, lack of basic awareness and ethics of moral values, poor execution of national cyber laws and acts that protect women users on digital media, and untimely report. What about something is happening to me right now, but after 2 years, I get justice? So it's like very untimely response that goes around. So there should be a holistic strategy to address online gender-based violence because every case is different. For me, something might be violence, but for you, that might not be a violence. But for somebody, if something is violence, I might not consider it as a violence. So it is a very fluid topic and it is very sensitive. So there should be a holistic strategy to address online gender-based violence. And we should be able to assist victims through legal assistance, counseling, and adopting rights respecting policies for law enforcement. And that does not just implies to physical abuse or domestic abuse that just happens in person, because people get as much as affected if online abuse happens because they are mentally tortured through it as well. Lastly, internet firms should take the responsibility to prevent gender-based violence on their platform seriously, act quickly to remove abusive images, minimize their spread, and provide remedies to victims, particularly by assisting with law enforcement bodies' attempts to prosecute abusers. And we should always keep this in mind, that it's not the internet that is causing the abuse, it's the people that are causing the abuse. So having said that, let's keep that in mind. And I would like to give the floor to Mr. Saroj Khanal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aashiyana. Hello, everyone. Namaste. My name is Saroj Khanal, and I am studying Masters in Sociology, and I am doing my work on thesis related to the topic role of education in women empowerment. Talking about empowerment, it is the process that creates power in individuals over their own life, society, and in their communities. It allows women to acquire the ability to choose between known alternatives who have otherwise been restricted from such an ability. Now, talking about women and empowerment, it's a movement involving respect, honor, recognition, and love toward all women. Empowerment can be defined in many ways. However, talking about women's empowerment means accepting and allowing people who are on the outside of the decision-making process into it. I've added some research questions on my thesis work, finding the roles of education and for the empowerment of women, and how has empowerment impacted in the lives of women through the education. And research objectives are to assess the roles and know the impact of empowerment in the lives of women. So talking about review of literature, I've used the concept of theories from Srilata Bartliwala and Sarah Longway concerned to welfare, upliftment, poverty alleviation, participation, women's level of equality, and recognition on socio-political economic spheres. As empowerment has become the subject of widespread and thoughtful and careful theorizing, study, and application in the fields of almost all social sectors. So for the review of literature, apart from these theories, I have also included the notion of power discussed by Foucault, Bourdieu, Baudrillard, and feminist perspective from MLN and Ingrida. I've used exploratory research designed to explore the role of education, to know the impact of empowerment for the life of women. For the rationality of the area, I've selected the NGO called Rodec Nepal. The nature of data is pure qualitative and primary data are used rather than secondary in my thesis. Out of 40 women, I've used and talked to 10 women for the selection of the research. Purposing sampling are used for these research objectives. The techniques are case study and interview, and narrative method of analysis of data has been used in the research. For the interpretation of data, I've researched. There are age group of women between 16 to 45 years, and the ethnicity listed are Brahmins, Sherpa, Lama, Chhetri, Maji, Mogar, and Tharu. The religion I have mentioned here is Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian, out of which 4 are married and 6 are unmarried. And the economic status are middle class, few do jobs, while others are still unemployed. Only one respondent from the research have account SS. Women contribution in public awareness and decision making and family planning. So in this section, I have included most of the girls have told their parents or teachers or even police complaining about the abuse they have faced in their life. But some women have not raised their voice, though they might be actively participating, some other women are still silent. Many women have the responsibility of caring themselves and schooling their children. I could not find the proper statistical significant differences among levels of women empowerments, including those women with abortion knowledge, family planning knowledge, and women's decision for future use of modern contraceptives. When I asked about the respondents, their motivational is really inspired me that they would become leader of some business. I've included here some impacts of educational empowerment in women's life. Positive impact are participation in development works, in decision making, poverty reduction, better employment opportunities, capability enhancement, and negative impacts are complex daily life activities, conflict between and among family members, unnecessary expenses on modern goods and services, cultural changes. In the conclusion and findings, educational empowerment helps in developing a sense of self-worth, a belief in one's ability to secure desired changes and the rights to control over one's life. And the NGO Rodek Nepal has helped many women and girl child in achieving their desired level of education and helped in other different types of activities. They are able to participate in different kind of activities in society to raise the voice against rape, domestic violence, and encouraging, motivating other women to engage in social transformation activities. Education help the woman to get land ownership change in her name, gives right to take final decision of family. So at last, I want to say that for choosing this women's empowerment as a topic of my thesis, there are some reasons. The reasons are women's social, economic, and political empowerment can help to build a society with gender equality without which a country's sustainable development is not possible. As women constitute the more than half population in Nepal, unless and until the 50% of women's population is not empowered, the country cannot progress. Empowered women contribute to the health and productivity of whole family and community and to improve prospects for next generation. Therefore, it is very crucial to empower and capacitate women. Thank you very much. And I would like to hand over the mic to Dr. Rita Dhungel, ma'am.
Thank you. The photograph reminds me of my past, where I was like a dead body after being repeatedly raped. I kept saying, no, leave me. How many times I said, stop, stop. I said, stop it. But who would listen to me except the furniture and the walls in the room? Namaste, everyone. This is the narrative of one of the co-researchers who was significantly involved in our photo quest project in Nepal. This is Rita Dhungel. I am with the University of Fraser Valley with the School of Social Work and Human Services. And today I'm going to share some of my work experience and my knowledge that I learned from, or we co-constructed the knowledge that I'm going to share with you about masculinity and human trafficking, exploring the roles of men in anti-trafficking movement. Trafficking, including sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and trafficking for organs, is a global social justice issue, as we all know. In Nepal, it is expected that approximately 7,000 women and girls are trafficked annually. It includes India and then Middle East countries. I had an opportunity to work with female trafficking survivors who had been trafficked to India. And then now they are back in Nepal. However, they are experiencing loss of intersectional gender oppression in their post-trafficking as part of my doctoral dissertation. During our research, we used a wide range of research methods and tools such as photo voice, street dramas, peer interviews, and the media conference. And also, I'm very proud to say that the co-researchers, they did go to the field and interview policymakers, health professionals, and service providers. So that was a really powerful experience for me when they reach out to the people and interview them. Gender inequality and patriarchal norms are inherently embedded in the Nepalese society and culture, escalate the vulnerability of women and goes to trafficking, and also make them doubly victimized in their post-trafficking. As I said earlier, the 8 co-researchers, they did go to interview policymakers and health professionals, lawyers, and also service providers. And what we found that using this iceberg as a metaphor, reintegration national framework, policies, programs, and services are developed by gender equality lenses. That's how they claim. However, when we had group meetings, then what we found that mostly we had 8 co-researchers, and then all of them had no access to education because they were born as a female. So their parents did not send them to school. Their siblings, if they are boys, they did have an opportunity to go to school, but they did not have an opportunity to go to school. So that's the disparity between male and female. And another element, we found that when they were born as a girl, most of the women reported that they were rejected by their family, including their dad, including their grandmother, including their grandfathers, and aunties and uncles. That's their before trafficking experience. And then when they traffic and they came back to their communities in Nepal, they experienced another challenge, which is called doubly victimized, that they were rejected by not only by the community and society, but also by their own family, their family, like mother, father, and brothers. So that was the case we found in our research. And there is another indicator for successful reintegration, marriage. When we interviewed all the service providers, they claim that we are running lots of programs to provide education around human trafficking to the communities. And then they also picked A, B, C, D are married. So they are reintegrated. That's how they reported. However, what we found from the women who are married, they said that, yes, we are married, but we are not safe in our relationship. Every day they experience violence from their intimate partner violence, or mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, or sister-in-laws. They experience loss of oppression in their own family. So they are living with fear. Another indicator for successful reintegration, job employment. What we found that there are 2 ways. When the trafficking survivors, they apply for jobs, they have lots of skills and expertise. Their employees, they would say that, you know that, right? The ABCD agencies, they hire trafficking survivors. That's how they made the comment when they go for interviews. On the other side, from the women who are working with agencies working in anti-trafficking movement, they say that and also the eyewitness, when I was there for 1 year, I witnessed that most of the trafficking survivors are invited to be member of the agency, but not necessarily they get they get hired, and some of them are working as a frontline worker, but they never get or they never hold any managerial position in their agency. That's their agency. The organization is founded by trafficking survivor, but but that's the reality, that most of the managerial position, men hold the managerial position. And I witnessed that they did not even count the lived experience of women. When they said something, they always change. No, this is not the way. Or that we wanted to do that. And another violence that we noticed, that is structural violence. Even though they have reintegration policies, but none of the women received any reintegration funding, even though it says in the policies, but they never received any funding from the government. And then even the funding is not allocated to agency to distribute the survivors. And then another case is that the procedures, the legal procedures is very lengthy. One of our survivors cased the file against the trafficker 3 months later. She arrived in Nepal, and it's been 7 years. The case has not been resolved, and the police still calls her and asks her to come to the police station or court. And her husband, actually, he's not aware of her history, so he keeps asking why they are calling you all the time. So that is the case. So she felt like, okay, I'm going to take out the case because I am at risk situation. It might damage my relationship with my husband. That is the case in Nepal. So in that, by considering all these areas or all these kind of intersectional gender operation, our research team came to the conclusion that it's all gender inequality and it's all are hidden. So one of the narratives from one co-researcher is, I fell in love with a man whom I told later about my history, and I gradually lost his interest. Whenever I asked him to meet me, he pretended that he was busy, and later he dumped me without telling anything. If he was a trafficking survivor and I had done the same to him, this society would tell me, are you stupid? Okay, so what we found, based on our findings, we recognize that until men as allies, they come forward and support the women trafficking survivors, they are not going to be successfully reintegrated in their post-trafficking. That's the key thing. And another area, we also found that just like Dr. Lisa Lorenzetti and other team are doing men's involvement in gender-based violence. It's exactly the same kind of work is needed in the context of Nepal, a community-based research with men to understand and unpack masculinity and their perceptions and their involvement and their role around reintegration of trafficking survivors is highly recommended. Yeah, namaste and dhanyavad.
Next speaker, Amrit Bikram Rai.
Thank you, Bidur sir. My name is Amrit Bikram Rai. I'm public health expert, and I work with people living with HIV around 1.5 decade, 15 years. And I also went through the same story like Maya ma'am, the PLHIV women and PLHIV children who are facing this type of problem in Nepal, and other things are they related to the transgender population. Here in Nepal, the violence are not only facing by the male and female, the transgender population are also facing the same problem that is related to the violence. I would like to include my presentation in the context of HIV because my experience is related to HIV, and I also present some of the actors who are involving to reduce the violence in Nepal. So HIV and gender issues in our constitution, in law, every citizen have the equal rights to live with dignity and rights to equality. But the laws and the provisions are in other side, and the real scenario is in other side, because 1 in 3 women, they are facing the violence in the form of physical or sexual violence from their husband or partners or some strangers or relatives. According to the UNFPA, around 50% of the women were faced the violence during their lifetime. So the violence are very big number in Nepal. So Nepal government has committed to ensure or achieve the gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030, and the government signed to achieve the sustainable development goal. And now gender equality and equity in Nepal, lots of organization and individual person are supporting or working to ensure the gender equality in Nepal. And the main role to reduce the gender inequality or to ensure the gender equality, the government of Nepal is playing the major role and make provision in constitution that man and female are both are equal, and so the minister of male women and children and senior citizen, the Nepal government provide the chance to male as well as female to serve as a minister. And also committed to, I already mentioned, the Nepal government committed to eliminate all form of violence by 2030, and the government is taking the lead role to in the violence to ensure the gender equality. Government of Nepal is the main actor, and the all actors are the UN agencies. Similarly, Men Engage Alliance, this is the international network where the men are engaging to reduce the gender-based violence. So in Nepal also, in 2007, the men are engaging as an alliance to reduce the gender-based violence. Similarly, World Bank is also supporting other volunteer service organization, Work Nepal, and other Sati. These organizations are also playing the important role to engage the man and boy to reduce the gender-based violence. And bilateral organizations like USAID, similarly networks and NGOs and other community-based organizations are also playing important role to reduce the gender-based violence in Nepal. I'm talking about these organizations because these organizations focus to engage the men and boys, because the source of violence is related to men. So if we engage the men in reducing the gender-based violence related activities, then we can reduce or eliminate the gender-based violence. So this organization strongly focusing on engaging the men, and these are my reference. In conclusion, if we engage the male and the boys to reduce the gender-based violence, then those programs will be the more effective. As a man, our in this session, we male are presenting these issues as a role model so that we can ensure the gender equality in Nepal. Thank you. Now, I would like to call to present the presentation Dr. Narendra Singh Thagunna, my teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Amritji, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Today, I am trying to cover the mental health issues. What are the common mental health issues due to that GBV? To how we will in our society or Nepal, how Nepal is trying to address those things. So how we male are engaging to promote mental well-being of the gender-based violence affected individuals. Engagement of the promotion of mental health in Nepal, especially in terms of women's mental health. to academia, professionals, and mental involvement of the promotion of the mental health in Nepal. I will focus on the three different dimensions. Yeah, through the academia, there is a lot of research work that based on the research work are going on over there, as well as the professionals. Different professional organizations are engaging to promote mental health of the gender-based violence individuals who are suffering from that issue, how to ensure the mental well-being of them. The professional organizations are contributing on that area, as well as a lot of organizations and a lot of individuals, male individuals are engaging on the promoting a mental health issue. Like I am also contributing the promoting mental health of women's mental health in Nepal for last 15 years in Nepal. While we go through the database, most of the mental illness are more common in women than the men. That research suggests these things, and this data also suggests that depressive disorders are more common in women than the men. That 41% of the disability from the neuropsychiatric disorder among women in comparison to the 29.3% among male. An estimated 80% of 50 million people affected by the violence, conflict, civil war, and disaster and displacement of women and children. And that is also the directly connected with the mental health issues are very essential for those group of people. And lifetime prevalence rate of the women violence against the women range from the 16 to 50%. That also the connect with the worsen the condition, the mental health issues of women. At least 1 in 5 women suffer from a rape and attempted rape in their lifetime. And that also increase the mental health burdens of among women. And women are more likely to have been treated for the mental health problems than men. That is in comparison that 29% compared with the 17%. And about 25% of the people who die by suicide are women. And those suffering from a different sort of violence or gender-based violence or sexual gender-based violence, they have a high tendency of the suicidal risk. And leading mental health problems of the elderly peoples also those who are suffering from that GBV issues, and they have a high chance to develop a different mental health issues in aging elderly people as well. While we are talking about mental health issues of women in Nepal, not only Nepal but also Southeast Asia regions have almost the poor mental health services in terms of that due to that economic issue, as well as a social and that stigma regarding a mental health issue in a community level and health challenges. And that due to these issues, women have a high mental health issues in our this Southeast Asia region and in Nepal as well. And one study we have conducted in a women's especially in a video, so that suggested that around more than 60% our respondent have some sort of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and stress. They have higher than other common people. So these also suggest that mental health issues are increased in this region. Psychosocial and economic factors such as the abuse, interpersonal conflict, marital disputes, relationship problems, adjustment problems, unpaid loan and financial loss, and mental health conditions such as mood disorder, adjustment disorder, and substance abuse disorder were found to be the contributing factors for the suicide and deliberately self-harm among the women in Nepal. These things also more happen with that GBV. And recently mental health, that this is the good initiation by the government of Nepal, that recently in 2015, focusing on the mental health issues of those individuals, like a mental Ministry of Health and Population established a one-stop crisis center, and right now that is around more than 65 districts covered by the that one-stop crisis center. And every one-stop crisis center, there have a there is a one psychosocial counselors and mental health providers. They will provide that service in that one-stop crisis center, and after, if that is not handled over there, they will refer that tertiary services or other services to the specialized mental health hospitals and other specialized mental health care centers to treat them. So that is the good initiation taken by the government of Nepal in terms of promoting a mental health issues. And recently other issues like video and other women's also, those who have crossed this more 60 years, they got special services in terms of getting a mental health services by the government of Nepal. Yeah, widows in the Nepal have the high rate of the depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicidal ideation among those widows in Nepal. Also, the higher psychiatric morbidity than the men, with the sex ratio of a 2.8 is equal to 1 in a mental health post, that primary healthcare centers, as well as 1.1 is equal to 1 in a district hospitals. So this suggests that the mental health burdens, especially that cultural violence on the women's mental health issue, as well as mental health of those women's, is higher than the men in our country like Nepal. And another important thing, find that nowadays that is even though there is not much research on that issue, that intimate partner violence and mental health burden is nowadays very much common in our society as well. And a lot of research suggests that those who are having intimate partner violence, they have a common mental health disorders, like in rural women, in high in rural women, and suicide, depression, anxiety, prenatal disorders, and somatizations and substance abuse are the few common mental health issues. So individuals who have suffering from the intimate partner violence. And nowadays intimate partner violence is a big issue in our society. Women's mental health are affected by the pressure of the multiple role issue in our society, and gender discrimination and associated factors of the poverty, hunger, malnutrition, overworkload, as well as sexual abuse, as well as gender-based violence are the common issues affected the women's mental health issue in our society. Academia, professionals, and men are more engaging nowadays in a mental health issue, promoting a mental health issue through different activities like awareness, advocacy, and promoting accessibility to the rural area of Nepal as well. So these are the few issues promoting by the different actors and government as well as non-government agencies in Nepal. And how can we promote support them? So there is a few things while we are supporting women's mental health issue, that is again important, that feel your feelings. We will and reach out to the connected one to connect and go inside yourself and take action for the promoting self-care and promoting a mental health of the women's as well. And another important factors to promote mental health or mental well-being among the women is effective self-care techniques. We have to implement effective self-care techniques, and we will do these different techniques to promote mental well-being of individuals and building a positive mental health, and we will promote. We are promoting these things with our community peoples, where we are directly engaging with those women groups as well as different women groups. Thank you.
So I'd like to invite our singer Aabhash Gautam to sing the closing song.
I'm going to sing a folk song that is called Dohari by playing a madal. I don't think you can see it. This is also a traditional instrument that is played in Nepal in different occasions. ओइ डाडा घरे साइली मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने नशा नशा रगतमा छौ तिमी पिरतीको अर्को नाम हो तिमी तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने मैले के आँखाले नहेर्ने मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने ओइ डाडा घरे साइले मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने बसेका छौ मुटुमै गडेर खुसी छु म झन् माया बढेर तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमीले छड्के आँखाले नहेर्ने मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने ओइ पिपल रुखे कान्छा मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने पर्छन् होला देखेर जिल्ला तिम्रो नामको यो दिलमा चार किल्ला तिमीले मलाई परले नै मन पर्ने तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमीले छड्के आँखाले नहेर्ने मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने माया गरौँ दुई मुटु साटेर भए भरका सीमाना काटेर तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमी मलाई परलाई नै मन पर्ने तिमीले छड्के आँखाले नहेर्ने मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने ओइ डाडा घरे साइले मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने ओइ डाडा घरे साइले मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने मैले हत्ते गरेर के गर्ने Thank you very much.
Well, wonderful. Many, many thanks. And what a beautiful healing song, I think, from Aabhash, after having such powerful, deep, and emotional conversations about things that matter in our world and the real suffering of gender-based violence, and also the commitment from this wonderful team from Nepal to make a difference and real social change. And I just felt that song just brought a lot of healing to my heart. And so I hope that others felt the same. I just want to take a moment to thank this wonderful team. I would like to thank Dr. Bidur, Dhungel, Aabhash as well, Gautam, who spoke and also sang, Namrata, Gautam, Kunti, Thapa for the poems, Aashiyana, Adhikari, Saroj, Khanal, Dr. Rita, Dhungel, Amrit, Bikram Raj, and Dr. Narendra, Thagunna. I would also like to thank our incredible organizers, Janelle Lee Pong and Sarah Thomas, without whom we would never be able to do these. they work late into the night and are up early in the morning. And also Dawn McSweeney and the communications team at the University of Calgary, Faculty of Social Work, and our funders, Social Science Humanities Research Council, and all the wonderful partners that make this just such a powerful movement together through with all our differences, celebrating those differences and celebrating one another, this is part of the peace that we are building, not just in our own societies, but across the globe. And so thank you so much.